Hi folks, happy to have you here on the AX Semantics Meetup channel. Here you will find every 14 days our latest video from our Meetup where we're discussing with experts and customers about the opportunities of content automation. If you have any questions, just write it in the comments. We will answer them as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe our channel. Then we will see you next time here on this channel.
Now it's up to me to say hello to everybody and welcome from the very warm video studio in Stuttgart today. We are in Stuttgart and we have Mirela with us of Lyreco, and today we will have a very focused look on the before and after situation at Lyreco. What changed thanks to text automation? And how is it today and how was it in the past? Some might not be remembering anymore how copywriting was done manually, but I'm not going to give it away already. Mirela, please introduce yourself and speak about Lyreco so that we can understand the context of what you're doing a little bit better. So you've got the floor, and whenever you want to share your screen, we can see your slides and we can start right away. Enjoy. I'm going to start right away. Yes, please do so. So everybody can see and hear. Hello, everybody. I'm going to start right away. Lyreco with AX Semantics and Xanevo. I'm Mirela Comor and I'm product content manager at Lyreco. Who is Lyreco? It's a market leader in Europe for everything you need in the workplace and in the office. And we produce everything, we deliver everything, paper, personal protective equipment in a B2B business. Lyreco is a company which is privately owned and since 1926, and it's internationally present in 25 countries in Europe and Asia. And thanks to other strategic partners, we cover 42 countries on a total of 4 continents. What is our mission? We are pioneers who sustainably supply everything a workplace needs so that our customers can concentrate on the essentials. And of course, content is a very important area because the customer wants to have the right information, giving them an added value so that the customers buy the products. We are 12,000 staff and we live this mission every day. Here, in a nutshell, our product range: office supplies and furniture, IT accessories and printing solutions, personal protective equipment, hygiene, coffee and catering. You see that we cover a broad product range. We are not a shoe selling company. We have more than 300 categories. There are personal protective equipment. We have 20 subcategories, for instance, etc. Who am I? I've been with Lyreco for 2.5 years as content manager, and the last 10 years before that, I worked in the marketplace business in the field of high fashion. I created content for shoes, bags, clothing, etc. I've had already first experience in the field of automation, and with a self-made solution we had in the company back then. But then some years ago, I had heard about AX Semantics already. It had been mentioned to me. So I was already aware of AX Semantics. I love new challenges and also projects where you have to put in a bit more effort. I like to challenge myself, and I also love projects that I can enjoy, and AX Semantics came just in time. How did we come to AX Semantics? That's the good question. We already had product descriptions and content already. We had content already, but it didn't meet our requirements. And then there is another point, and that we had a lot of frustration because we had to put texts manually in a huge Excel file. And as you can imagine, if you do that manually, it's a lot of work. If you have 100 products per day or 50, to write text for them individually, you need days for that, because you have to enter any other pieces of information about the text. How do I write it?
Man muss viele Informationen sammeln.
What are the USPs? You have to collect a lot of information to produce the correct content. And I had an automated process background, and then I had to engage a manual one, and I wanted to change that as fast as possible. I discussed that with my supervisor, saying that it would be great to automate the content, the processes, and he backed me in that. And a few days later only, this project was launched. And he entrusted me with this project, and I'm quite happy about it. So we initiated the project. So how does this need to be done? That is a very good question. I brought some important and fundamental to-dos that might be interesting for some of you to know what they need to do first, because not everybody knows what to do. And it's difficult to find the information, and it's also very individual. It depends on the company, on the data available, etc. So I'm going to report from my personal experience. What is the most important to do at the beginning? Create clusters. What are clusters? You can also call them categories. These are products with the same attributes that you pool. What are attributes? For instance, color, quantity. And creating a cluster means that you pool products into a cluster. Pens are a cluster. Paper is one cluster, for instance. Toilet paper as well. Create clusters. Here you see some example to illustrate it. The dog says, that's right. These categories all have the same attributes. And here you see an example to illustrate biros, pencils, fountain pens, etc. All these are pens. And these pens all have attributes like color, line width, lace, housing color, etc. This is what I'm talking about when I speak of clusters. That was the first step we took. It can also be a whiteboard marker. This is a pen that can be found with the buzzword of markers. So you have to produce this cluster first. We completed data and created new attributes. What does that mean? It has been mentioned a couple of times already. AX Semantics, for instance, is based on structured data. No data, no texts. And this is why one important to do is to fill empty data. This means if I have a list of data on pens, and then I have the line width, the color, but the manufacturer isn't mentioned. There's nothing in the Excel file in this column. This is why you have to fill in all the empty data to have a good foundation. A new attribute is a product feature. If you take a jacket, it's the length of the sleeve, for instance, or the lining. Maybe the lining is missing as an attribute. So we say before we start, we look at the different categories with are all the important attributes or features available? If so, you can produce the cluster. If not, you have to fill the data. Here you see an overview. This is what this can look like. Before it was filled with 69% were filled with data, and afterwards we've got 100%. You see the gaps at the top and 100% filled at the bottom. So no data is missing, so that high quality texts and complete texts will be the outcome. The third point is the standardization and, if necessary, extension of the taxonomy. This overlaps a bit with values and create new attributes. For instance, for colors, is there something missing? Are there any colors we don't have in our taxonomy? So double check, that's what I mean. And define the taxonomy clearly. So this is the taxonomy for category A or B. It's defined and can be extended at any point in time because new values are added, new products are added with a certain type of sleeve. In the case of textiles, you don't have in the system yet. And this piece of data has to be entered into the system. So this means that we are creating structured and complete data. As I said before, it all boils down to that. This is a very important point, and I can't emphasize it enough. The exact consideration of text structure. And what I mean by that is visual. This means what does this text look like to the eye? I'm going to give you some examples later on about what I mean and how the product description changes. It's important to have headlines, paragraphs, bold, italics, and work with links as well in order to be able to identify the text, to read it, to not feel overwhelmed by text. You're all aware of that. If you go to a certain website and want to shop and the key features are not highlighted, are not in bold, you don't want to read it anymore. And this is why it's important that you make those features jump at you so that the customer can see the most important piece of information right away. Analyze the added value for the customer. Of course, you have to analyze, you have to do some research. What does the customer want to know exactly? What information is important? What added value does my product offer? This can vary from one product to another. And this is never going to stop. This added value analysis, because new products come with new features. And it might happen that things occur to you only later on. Oh, this would match my paper products quite nicely, for instance. Take away fears. This is a point which is also important. Automated language generation is done in an automated manner. But you have to take away the fears of the people and tell people that there are new and more pleasant tasks, more interesting, more exciting than just writing texts in a list. And also document before and after comparisons. We tend to think, I'm going to do that one day. I know how things were before. No, it's better to document the before state. Write down the key indicators. And then in regular intervals, check it and keep an eye on the things that have changed. Before and after comparisons is something we're going to show you in a moment, and that's quite interesting. You see what things looked like before and the beautiful result. And this also goes for other examples. I'm sure you also want to be able to present it in the way I do today. Introduce monitoring, another important point. This means that you have to take stock of visitor numbers, for instance. Has the number of registrations or subscriptions to the newsletter increased? This is also very important to measure, to see if the project, if you want to call it like that, is successful. Are there things I can improve? Are there some things I can improve, some fine-tuning? And you want to have a continuous improvement process, and you want to keep working on the text, and to maintain the content freshness. So much on that. And what has AX brought us? How did we benefit from this cooperation? We had to deal with our taxonomy. In the past, we maybe wouldn't have done it. You might be tempted to think it's there, I don't have to deal with it, but we had to deal with it, and that's good. Because now we know this is the taxonomy, it's all been entered into well, and that's very important. Standardization of the texts. Yes, thanks to our projects in the cloud, of course, uniformization or standardization takes place. Previously, we had 2 pens, for instance, and I'm going to write down 1 sentence or 2 because there's nothing more I can say about it, or I don't have the time, or for many reasons. I just have 2 sentences. And then a different pen can be accompanied by a very long text, but that's not homogeneous, because if the customer reads it, there is just 1 sentence for 1 pen and many sentences for the other pen, although the pens are similar. And that doesn't look good. So it's nice if the information can be found at the same place. So structure is what matters, and a standardized structure. And this can be done well with the AX structure of the sentence, because it's standardized, and so the structure of the texts is largely the same. Not necessarily, but it can be the same. And this allows you to have a status quo that is very helpful. Create a uniform structure. This is the point I have mentioned already. This uniform look. The core characteristics. What does that mean? This is the minimum information a product needs so that it can be sold. Let me give you an example. The manufacturer needs to be mentioned, the color, the line width of a pen, waterproof or not. And everybody knows that when communicating to our suppliers, everybody knows what is important, what characteristics are important. Great time saving, I roughly said 10 minutes per new product, as compared to how it was done previously. And at the click of a button, we can generate any text now. Once the sentence is there, the data is complete. You just click on a button and you've got finished texts. Adding mass addition of text modules, I like this very much, because you've got different attributes for the products, the key factors, but there are also text modules you can add massively. For instance, if I have a paper by a certain manufacturer producing it in a certain way, or here sustainability comes to play, or you can just add that massively and also remove it again. That's no problem. You can include a call to action, and topics like the environment and sustainability can be depicted very well. Challenges. I'm speaking about my personal point of view. You have to build up the technical knowledge. I have a lot of knowledge now, but I'm still learning every day and practicing. Understanding of structured data must be created. I know I've said that before, but I'd like to emphasize how important it is. Time investment in the individual project. You cannot finish a project in a day. It takes some days, depending on the number of products, on the data quality, but the time investment pays off because in the long run, you've got the text, you've got the data, and you just click on a button. Where are we going? What are our goals with AX Semantics? What are the next steps? We want to use multilingualism as we are also operating internationally, and we want to have an exchange with our international colleagues. They also think this is very exciting. We want to go deeper into the project and do the fine-tuning work. This is what I said before, working with the tool, this never stops. You dig deeper, you improve further. How can I bring about more added value? This is the fine-tuning work that needs to be done. Elaborate new added values, incorporate and include the input of colleagues. This is a very important point as well. They make remarks, they give you hints, come up with ideas, things that might not occur to me. And colleagues also said we could include this, that would be important for this category. And everybody enjoys participating. They all think it's great. Nobody came to us and said, this is not good. How do the texts differ? We optimized that in the context of the project. AX was a kind of spur motivator. Typos, spelling errors, that was something that happens. I mean, these typos do occur. Different tonality and writing styles. This was also a challenge. Of course, if three people work on a project, they all have a different writing style. The tonality is different. You can tell that different people use this. No formatting, etc. No paragraphs, no formatting like bold. We optimized that in the context of the project. We also included links. And we had no text modules, some isolated ones, but we didn't have them in a more condensed format. Now we can document what we have more easily. That was before. And after, we have no typos anymore and correct grammar and a reader-friendly text structure. I think it's very important that the text is eye-friendly, so to speak, and we have topic-oriented text modules per category on sustainability, for instance, or just a call for action, or for Christmas, we can include a certain text modules over a cup of coffee, so to speak. Formatting is used, as I said before, highlight the key facts, paragraphs, work with headlines, titles, H2, H3 titles, central administration of the content. That is crucial. The content is stored locally in AX, and you have a good overview. A fixed contact when it comes to cooperating new products or change requests. What has changed in my daily work? Well, this is something that I mentioned on a personal note. I have much more fun at work, as the requirements for my tasks have become more qualified. And it's a challenge, and I keep learning, and something good is developed. No monotonous internet research or Excel list chaos, because that's something that I don't like at all. A lot of input, which is a challenge again, but it always brings you to a higher level of knowledge. And who wouldn't want that? Text projects, categories, clusters, our texts are produced as a whole, and we don't work on product level.
Ein Standard, der erstmal da ist. Das heißt, man hat erstmal.
And the ready-made sentence frameworks serve as a status quo and are fixed standard that is there for the time being and can and should be constantly modified. This brings me to the examples very pragmatically mentioned here, old and new, before and after. It's the same product. You see a text that's more difficult to read, the way it is designed, and below it's much more easy to read the text. You see the most important facts and attributes in bold, protective category S3, SRC standard, orthopedic insoles according to the German accident insurance regulation 112, etc. And for your work environment, of course, you want to make the best choice. So these are text modules you see at the bottom in italics. You've got the plus sign. It's much more easy to read it if you compare the text at the bottom to the text at the top. Multifunction printer. This is the next example. If you look at the top, I don't necessarily see how, at a glance, how many pages can print per minute, but at the bottom you see that right away. The printing speed after 34 pages per minute, 3-in-1 design, a device wireless, 3 years of warranty, etc. So you can see all the important pieces of information at one glance. This is a toner. We have links even. This is what you can see highlighted in blue, recycling box and accessory search, Zubehörsuche in German. This is where you can find the right cartridge, for instance. If you click on that link, it guides you there. And then you see the compatibilities of the printer. And it's really easy to find the most important pieces of information. The next example is a safety shoe. I've got the example twice in here. You've got a color laser printer. Color laser paper. Again, you see the different features, excellent readability. And here you see additional pieces of information at the bottom you don't find at the top. Thank you very much and bye. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope it's been useful to you. I hope so too. A lot of content you mentioned, and there were some points you mentioned that we also communicate to interested parties time and time again. But if we have that first-hand information and you speak from your own experience, that's great. So your job is more exciting and more diverse. And this is something we also see time and time again, but it's very nice to hear that from someone who has that first-hand experience. You said you introduced monitoring. May I ask, are you using the AX metrics, so our own monitoring tool for the quality? Not yet, but we will. We are in the midst of implementing it. We want to use it to also be given the functional and professional feedback, to see where's room for improvement, for optimization, and we want to improve. We want to continuously improve. There are two questions. I'm going to forward the first question to you. How has your Lyreco's visibility changed after implementing this solution? Can you say something? Have you seen some positive effects in search engine optimization, etc.? Well, I have to say, not yet, because we've just concluded our projects. We haven't uploaded everything yet. So these are the next steps we're going to take with Netflix as well and with our managers to document Google Analytics to see what is exciting. And we're waiting for that. We're waiting for these results. Christoph has a question. Could you do that independently from the headquarters in France? And does your data come from a PIM system? Yes, they come from a PIM system. And we did that independently. If you have any other questions, please use the Q&A or the chat function, and we'll be pleased to ask our speaker. One question was about metrics. I wanted to ask, what languages do you want to implement? Do you implemented it for Germany, but you spoke about the international path. What drives you? Is it European? Do you want to do it for the 4 continents? Where do you want to get to? We would like to start in our own environment to see how it is received. And then, of course, the world is open. So we want to implement it on the 4 continents and maybe also in the strategic partnerships and others. Yes, exactly. You were talking about your working environment and that you enjoy it more. How did you convince your colleagues that it's better to do it in that way? Because, I mean, somebody might show up and say, I did something different. AX is cool. I've just been around for a few weeks and my supervisor also loves it. It's a great idea. Now we're going to do away with everything we've been doing for 20 years and introduce something new. That was the point I mentioned with takeaway fears. On a regular basis, I get together with our colleagues. I'm not doing it in an isolated manner. I get together with the product managers and many other colleagues. I show them what I do and I take them on board. I love explaining it to them. And everybody can join in and be part of the project. There are great tasks to do. And as I said, the work is becoming more qualified. You have more of a bird's eye perspective. We are not going to write text for the individual product, but you look at the entirety of the products. I love to mention the example of a coach of a sofa bed, and if you have the fabric and you have a certain part of the fabric, and then it's quite difficult to get all the nitty-gritty details. I mean, creativity is promoted largely through AX Semantics software. So it's exciting what you're doing. The content team, how big is it? And what other tags what other tags you're using AX Semantics for in addition to the product text? First and foremost, for product text, because I'm a product content manager, that is what we are currently doing. And the content team and those who were part of the AX Semantics project, we are 2 people. But there are many more people who are involved. We do it together with the product managers, and we have plenty of product managers. And everybody is supposed to have a voice. We want to do it together. I'm not doing it alone. I'm not saying we're going to do it this way, and this is what the text should look like. I mean, everybody's supposed to join in, can have a look at it in the web shop, and can say, hey, I had a role in that. I mean, this is nice for everybody. It's a feeling of success to draw up something new, to be part of the projects, and to take on new tasks. Do you have an idea already what categories of tasks you want to automate above and beyond what you're doing already? The categories I've mentioned before: office, furniture, PPE, that's a very important topic, catering, everything you need at your workplace. Okay. Just to add something, we have customers who write category pages like PPE or safety goggles and hearing protection, for instance. And in 2 weeks, there will be another meetup, and we will present a different type of text nobody has implemented. It will be at Pier 14. We are part of that. We look into the project on a monthly basis and how fast it developed. If you want to do more than a quote unquote only product text, there's a possibility. I don't see any other questions. I do. There is a question in the chat. Yes, please. There was a technical glitch, but not everybody can write in the chat. And there's another question in the chat. How many variants do you have for the sentences or alternative formulations and synonyms? Or is it important? It's not that important to have plenty of terms. Yes, of course, it's important to have a large variety. Because if I only write the nice shoe, no, I can also write the super elegant pair of shoes, for instance. We have many variants. We also use synonyms. That's a very important topic. And it's also great to work with that. Because if you ever look at the other content, it's a totally different type of text. So we use as much variation as possible, as long as it fits, as long as it's appropriate. We work with synonyms and variants. I can only recommend it. Yes, we share that opinion. What are the text lengths you use? We saw some examples of before and after. The texts are longer, but what is the recommendation you can give us? Write the same for all the different products? No, there are some products that need more explanation. A shredder or a lining machine, or there's some products that need more explanation. I mean, a simple pen, you can write some sentences about that simple pen, but you should never stay below 300 or 400 characters. That's not enough. Otherwise it's too little. Also from a search engine optimization perspective, it varies. I can't give you a one-size-fits-all answer. I've shown you some texts, and maybe there we use 2000 characters. Well, Google also can read a pen text at your company and then with a different supplier. And then if both texts contain 400 characters or are a certain size, this can be seen as a standard. There isn't more to say about that product. It would be weird if on a pen I could write 15,000 characters. And this is how the timber is growing, and then it is logged, and then a pin is produced. I mean, that's nonsense. The user doesn't want to read that. And what does the user need in terms of information on a pen or on a shredding machine? Can it ruin CDs? Who uses CDs? Well, we can, or mobile, computer drive. Well, it all depends on the user and what the user needs. That is the right answer, I'd say. Oh, there's another question coming in. Just see. No, that was the question that we have just answered. So that's it. Mirela, thank you so much for a very authentic and sincere presentation, for giving us some insights into your personal work. It's been very refreshing to not speak about key indicators and SEO and conversion, but how did I feel? That's what you shared with this job. What has changed for me personally? I think it's a very important development, particularly as we're all challenged in our jobs. And if it's a pleasure working, and I'm sure, obviously you enjoy working, that's even better. That's great. Thank you very much for the personal insights. Thanks to you, Mirela says. Thanks to everybody who participated, for everybody who organized it and made sure that I find all the questions and I ask them. Thanks to Simultando for this marvelous translation to our international guests. I've seen some names who obviously come from abroad.
Thank you very much for being here, for being part of the AX Semantics Meetup.
I'm looking forward to seeing you anytime soon. Stay healthy and see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.